Hello everyone, my name is Craig and welcome back to the channel, and this is a video review of the Nerf rival Kronos. Finally, my first rival blaster. I've always wanted to get into rival. I got this while thrifting. If you see my Nerf thrifting video, I managed to pick up and wanted this one for about $8, which is an absolute steal. With this one, spring powered, internal magazine, fed blaster, iconic staple in the rival series. Let's get into the review. Let's start out with a blaster overview. Starting up front, no end strike barrel lug. This is a rival blaster. Get up front is a fake sight, or actually is a mock sight, but not going to help you aim with this blaster. Up front is partially a little bit of a rival rail. This is not Picatinny rail. This is a rival rail. There is a difference. Get back to the back. To flip this up, it will access the internal magazine. This is internally fed through the magazine, plus this is sort of an access door. We'll get back to that here in a sec. Getting up to the front here is going to be more of a rival rail for whatever attachment you want to put on there, plus a mock sight in the back. Into the back, this is the priming handle. To prime, you do that. To unload, to load the blaster, you will have to prime back this blaster first, and then that will open up the little breech here, and you could start shoving in your rival rounds in there. The internal capacity of this blaster is 5 rounds. No more than that. But you could simply just put them in like that, flip down the door. You'll have to push this black thing forward, which I prefer it to cock back all the way and then return back, but whatevs. Here in the back is a priming indicator in the back. So once you've closed that, you're ready to fire off once. I believe there's also a reset button, because once you prime the blaster, you're not able to prime it again, but you can push this down and override that, and you're allowed to open up the blaster again in case you need to clear out a jam or something like that. So priming indicator is right here, and that unjamming button thingy is right here. You do have to press it down to do that before you, and you have to have the blaster prime before you're able to actually unjam something. Getting down to the grip is actually fairly proportional to the blaster, and it's pretty comfortable with it. I'm not used to rival at all. This is actually my first blaster, but this, I could probably get used to this. I got to like this grip a bit. It feels of much higher quality material than what is in like elite blasters and stuff. So great job Hasbro for doing that. Getting down to the bottom is a sling attachment point if you want to put this on a sling, but this blaster is actually pretty slim enough. You can make a custom holster for this blaster. This actually has that slim of a profile. Getting down to the trigger pull is actually pretty smooth and in line with other rival blasters on the market. This blaster does not have slam fire. But getting over to this left side, present on the left side, not on the right side, not full ambi bro, is a trigger safety. Pulling it down puts the blaster in safe mode. You can't pull the trigger. Pushing it back up, now you can pull the trigger. So safety, the pros and cons of safeties, I'm not going to go over that, but you can probably understand how a safety might work. And that is all of the features of the Nerf rival Kronos. A pretty good blaster, and that will reserve all the other comments that I have for in my conclusion and opinion going over that. Let's get into a firing demo. I'll be firing the Nerf rival Accu rounds, because these were the only rival rounds that I could purchase at the time, so they're the blue Accu rounds. Reloaded 4 more shots. Sorry, 5 more shots, but like 4, F-O-R. Firing analysis and conclusion of the Nerf rival Kronos. I had no jams or malfunctions, surprisingly, with the blaster through my testing procedure and the firing demo. Fired very well for what rival is and first impressions of rival. Chrono average on this should be about 90 feet per second. However, I must say that my unit specifically shot about 63 FPS. I did that chrono test 3 times and got about the same one. I will note that I got this blaster while thrifting, so it might have been more tattered and torn than I thought. I thought that this blaster was in much better condition, but apparently my chrono data says otherwise. So that is my personal unit. Your unit out of the box shouldn't shoot like that, otherwise you should probably return the blaster, because then there's something wrong with it. But generally 90 FPS is right in line with the rival par of about 90 to 100 FPS, and for a side-on blaster, that's actually pretty darn good. So does everything that it's supposed to do, except for my unit shoots softer. It's just like my Jolt. My Jolt, for whatever reason, shot incredibly low. Like low FPS, and I don't know why. My Kronos was the same way. Like incredibly soft, even though I was shooting at like 5 feet away and I could see the things bouncing across my room. The chrono data said that, hey, yeah, it's shooting at about 63 feet per second, so whatevs. Onto that one. It's still a solid blaster. Getting into other comments and stuff that I wanted to make, at least to me, this is actually a pretty big blaster and pretty heavy to me. I'm not a big, strong dude for me, because I'm used to like elite blasters and stuff like this. This is actually a little bit of a heavy blaster for me. You could go much heavier, but for me, that was what surprises me about this. I was even taking it out of my closet to do a review on it, and then I was like, oh dang, this thing is pretty darn heavy. But a little bit of a comment, but I did want to mention that for me, and especially my small hands, this blaster just feels big and heavy with it. But we've seen larger and heavier in Nerf before, so I wanted to make that comment, but don't take that one too literally. That's just me, right, with it. But my opinions on this one, I actually really like the Kronos here. Solid blaster, solid introduction to rival. Those Accu rounds that I have are actually pretty darn accurate. With it, they still will fire at the same velocity, really, as the old yellow rival rounds, and the accuracy is slightly boosted with the blue Accu rounds with it. But yeah, this blaster does very, very well. This is a solid rival secondary. There's not a lot of secondaries in rival that you could really run, especially in a holster or something that is just overall practical. The Kronos is pretty much the go-to secondary for that one. 5 shots in there, sleek, compact form factor that you could just whip out of a holster and then use whenever you need to with it. I see why this blaster is so beloved with it, and I really like it too. I'm putting aside my unit having trash FPS to look at everything else objectively. It's a really, really good blaster, and this is my introduction to rival. I wanted to review an old school rival blaster like this before going on to something like what they have on shelves now with like the Mirage and that type of stuff. I wanted to review this. This is what I think old school rival really is with it, and it made a lasting impression on me. This is now one of my favorite blasters to fire. I love firing the rival rounds. I always wanted to get into this series, and I'll probably be buying more rival blasters because of this blaster right here with it. So it's really, really good, and I picked it up again while thrifting for like $8-9 for it, which is a steal for it. Didn't realize that it was a bit more tattered and torn than it actually looked and performed. But because I just did the testing, I didn't do the chronograph data until after the firing test, which whoops. But yeah, it's still a really solid blaster, and I would recommend you go check out this blaster. If you're into rival and stuff, go check out this blaster. If you're in a house war and stuff, this would probably exceed the FPS limits to do inside of a house war, unless if everybody's playing with rival. If you're doing like full-length dart blasters and stuff, this might be a little bit unfair for you to use even as a secondary, but it could be a lot worse with that one. So be careful as to what restrictions you use, but this could be still a good around secondary in a lot of Nerf events and stuff. So I would highly recommend you go check out the rival. This is from the Phantom Core series. They have so many repaints of the Nerf rival Kronos. So my thoughts on this, positive. Definitely recommend to go check it out. Let me know what you guys think personally of the rival Kronos in the comments down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.